Welcome to Jacket Jockeys with Justin.
That your name is Justin?
Yeah.
It's me. Hi, Justin. It's me.
Hi, me. How's it going?
Oh, good.
Has it
You
been
know,
a good week for me?
well, I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. I don't know if I am myself currently in a gas pocket, a poison gas pocket. Everything all around me has been called into question
Oh
this week's
man,
episode.
they need to get Mulder and Scully out there to figure out what's going on in them
Oh
caves.
my God, you're right.
Just
Science is a
saying.
high stakes game.
Bop. All right. Well,
Hi.
we're back here talking Showtime's Yellowjackets now streaming on Paramount Plus through Amazon
What?
Prime.
None of these
Um
people are paying us anything.
and
Will you please go back and edit that out?
put in the promotional code Jacket Jockeys for 10% off your subscription.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Look
if
for
you do it, they'll
look for
actually pay us.
official Jacket Jockey soccer balls at your local sporting goods store. They're autographed by Justin.
And our special Jacket Jockeys rubber ears.
They're
Now
gum
with
they're,
crunch.
they're gummy. They're gummy ears. We discussed this. It's gumming.
Now with crunch.
Crunch. The silicone ear spoon holders, spoon rests were too expensive, but maybe next year if you guys use that promo code.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk about season three, episode, episode, season three, episode three, entitled "Them's the Breaks." Brakes.
Them's the breaks,
Them's the
kids.
breaks, cause them breaks done not worked.
Dim breaks, dim
So
breaks.
they done not braked. So yeah, the brakes are broke.
Is them's the breaks a phrase?
It is. Yeah, I
Oh,
looked it
I've never
up.
heard
I
it.
looked it up. It's like that's the way the cookie
That's the way, yeah,
crumbles or
yeah. Dim's the
song those
breaks.
and it but it's EAK,
EAKS,
you
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's like those are the breaks you get. I feel like it's sort of along those
I
lines.
get it.
Um so anyway, I think it's pretty obvious what the title means. No need to you know, belabor that. But uh but I gotta belabor
We gotta,
something.
yeah, I mean, we have plenty to
We're
belabor.
here
Just
for
saying.
belaboring, all
Yeah.
right? If you're not here for belaboring, you should probably go listen to like,
Jacket Jockeys, the most laborious podcast on the market.
like I don't know, like Quick Jockeys or whatever, our new 5-minute TikTok podcast. That is not a thing. Anyway,
Maybe not yet.
maybe not yet.
We
Look
should lock
out.
that down before this drops and somebody else gets
Yeah,
it.
you're right. Someone's gonna steal that idea and they're gonna make billions. They're gonna laugh at everyone.
Laugh, laugh, laugh.
All right. So just to get started, I mean, unless there's something you want to say before we dive
I mean,
in
I feel like
here.
I've been. I think no. Let's just go in.
Okay.
I'm gonna try a different approach.
A different approach. Okay.
We'll see.
So one thing I wanted to bring up that was from the previously on that it's not I'm not complaining about the previously on this
Oh my
time.
boy.
It's just that the previously on showed again that scene of Shauna finding the phone in the stall.
Yeah.
And I don't think it showed this last week in the subtitles, but the subtitles showed like what the ringtone was playing. And the ringtone was playing Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton. Um, yeah,
I
it's short for Judith, for what
okay.
it's worth.
I
Country singer from the early 80s.
okay.
Juice Newton.
Interesting. Okay, Queen of Hearts. So some people will have recognized that song.
Yeah, so if you recognized
I am
it,
not one of those people.
then yeah, but like I didn't, I just heard a sound, like it didn't really sound like anything, but like the subtitles on the previously on this
This is
week,
significant.
yeah,
It definitely makes me think that it's more likely to have been deliberate and not just, yeah, well, sometimes people leave phones in bathrooms.
yeah,
Coincidences do happen.
hmm
And shows like
including that
this,
show.
yeah, shows like this and others that you will no doubt bring up, are, they get a lot
Lois!
of currency out of trapping you in a, well, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Walking
my
that
God,
line.
did the bagel depart?
I do love I do love that bagel thing, on the leftovers.
It's
Yeah,
funny. Yeah,
it's
so
interesting because
it,
I didn't read anything into the background screen. I thought that that was just, a wink at us, but now that I know that because it was like a photograph of like a mountainous
yeah,
wilderness scene. But this seems more deliberate. Go ahead.
yeah. Kind of similar to what we see in this episode, actually, when Shauna has her like vision quest where she's floating in the lake. Like if you look behind her, it's a very similar scene to what we see in the on the phone. Um, Not that I think that necessarily means
Mm,
anything specific, but just to say,
yeah.
like, I do
Well, and
think it's a reference.
that scene is very like the one with like Lottie or I thought that scene called to mind. Well, we'll get to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like it suggests the Queen of Hearts thing specifically suggests like a
Yeah,
connection to that time in the wilderness, the
certainly.
ritual thing they did, and we also have on the envelope the symbol and Shauna's old name. So I feel like all that stuff adds up to like it makes sense that it's the same person.
I mean, definitely the envelope. I mean, I didn't think that the envelope was a coincidence.
No, I know. No, no. What I mean is that it's the same person
Uh-huh.
because they both are showing a connection,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a similar way with like insider information about what was going on out
To
there.
your ears.
Because the Queen of Hearts is not
What?
widely
Yeah.
what?
Why did they call back? I want to know who it is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever gonna make sense, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they tell us later. Because it's like, yeah, from what happened, I don't get it. And I was listening to the podcast and I was listening to like my best attempt to explain it, and like it kind of just fell apart at like, well, they called it, and then she turned into the bar and like then she called later
Or
about
like
it,
the
and
point was just to make her hear the Queen of Hearts thing and scare her.
yeah, maybe that was the only point. I feel like that's possible and that we just didn't catch it because I didn't understand that's what
But
was playing.
why? I mean, why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that goes back to like why this person is doing this at all. Why are they stalking?
TV shows love doing this thing where, they do these things that are obviously to create creepy ambiance. And then when you get the answer for what it actually is, it's like, I don't know that that person would really have behaved in that way. So we'll find out.
That's definitely true for Jeff and the postcards,
Yeah.
Like those are a lot creepier than the answer.
Yeah, the text message is not
No,
creepy.
text message was more in line, which is why people continued to believe. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're still on that train, but
I bet some people are back on that train after this because we know Jeff isn't the one doing
yeah,
you know, doing
yeah.
that.
But I
It's
think
not gonna.
I still think there's no way it wasn't Jeff for the postcards. I see it more as like I said in the last podcast that they wanted a redo of that plot,
Yeah.
and to come up with actually a mysterious stranger, not just this like
What if it's Adam Martin doing it and he wasn't really dead? He survived being cut up and part of him cremated and part of him being buried
and
for
part of him being
days.
sanded down like a
Yes.
rind of
With a
pecorino
like a
or
rind of
whatever,
pecorino. Yeah.
or cheese
Mhm.
grater. What was it?
Cheese, yeah,
Anyway,
cheese grated.
yeah, he got cheese grated.
That's my theory. You can Venmo me when I'm right.
Wait, we got to Venmo you when
Yeah,
you're
it's like it's
right?
a bet.
Oh.
Yeah, every time I say something that turns out to be correct. Have you not been getting paid for when you're right?
For my rightness? No,
I
I wish. God, I
for
would be
your
so wealthy by now.
rectitude?
I'm so often wrecked.
Correct.
That's wrecked, y'all. Anyway, there is basically nothing about that plot in this
Yeah,
week's episode. Like
true.
we get a very brief scene of Melissa that's cut short in the past, and like in the present, there's
Yeah, and she's back to
virtually
that backwards
nothing.
cap and her like silly little braids, acting like I don't know, a toddler or something.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get to it, but just to say, like, that situation, it's clearly a long game since, now we're 3 episodes deep and like they haven't even begun to answer it yet. So anyway, I'm expecting that to be, yeah, a significant element, at least for the present day plot, obviously, and also perhaps for the past, just to explain like whatever the thing is that was between Shauna and Melissa, and like how that might have led to what's happening now, or if there's no connection at all, they're just fucking with us. I really don't know.
I don't know. I feel like they're just fucking with us. I know that's the opposite of what I said last time. I don't remember what I said. I don't listen to the podcast. Why on earth? You cannot pay me enough money to listen to myself when I'm recording. But yeah. Now I'm back to I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a moment of cynicism. I think they're fucking with us.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. I think there's a decent
What if Jessica
chance.
Roberts survives? I know you're
I
just throwing out crazy shit. Like, cause who else could it be?
Yeah, I know. That's actually a
Did
good
I already said Coach
point.
Ben in a wig,
She didn't
right?
have blonde hair though, so
Coach Ben in a blonde wig.
I guess anyone can wear a blonde wig.
Anybody.
That will be.
Well,
I will.
not anyone.
I
Some people really can't pull it off.
I will be so annoyed if it's just someone in a blonde wig.
Well, get
Like
ready.
I know that happens, but
This is such a stupid trivial thing to point out, but I really like that they have young Natalie's roots all grown out. Like her bleach blonde
oh
hair is
yeah,
just not, but yeah, I like that.
yeah. I was wondering if they're going to pay attention to that because they did make it very clear in various ways that that wasn't her natural color. So like,
Various ways.
well, I mean, in
It's just funny.
flashbacks as well as, they did show the roots starting to grow in and
Mm,
obviously her adults. That's what I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
by
yeah.
various
It's just funny because it's like at a glance, it's obvious.
Yeah, I know. I
It's just
know.
funny.
I'm just saying like sometimes characters have their hair dyed or the actors have
Yeah,
their
yeah,
hair
yeah,
dyed, but
yeah,
the
yeah. And they
character's
just,
actually
yeah, yeah,
supposed
they
to
just
have
keep
that
up
hair
with it.
color. Yeah.
So I wanna say something. I said I was gonna try a different approach, and I don't know if I will or not because actually I
Is it
think some
working? 'Cause
no, it's not working. I'm just because I have said nothing of substance yet. But I just want to say this episode was very odd, and it provided us what for the first time I think, or I would argue, th- the first kind of um rationale that they can pin all of these supernatural looking things to. So
oh.
before this, it
Mhm.
was like, is this witchcraft? Is this hallucinations? Is it, and now we've got this like I mean, if we were to believe that Ben is right, and I don't see why not, like this cave has a high concentration of poisonous gas that causes hallucinations.
Mhm.
And so then now, if we were to extrapolate from that, maybe this whole area has various um crevices, like it's a system with of like I'm not a geologist, like, gas geysers, whatever, I don't
Mhm.
know, where some of this can, in smaller concentrations, leak up. Like the cabin is built on top of a fissure that goes down to the poison gas cave. I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying now we have something something in world that could explain this that is not witchcraft or
Yeah.
spirits.
Yeah, something supernatural. Yeah, which yeah, I firmly believe is the direction they're going. So I think that's definitely something added to the mix, along with like what I think they're starting to develop like more specifically this season, but that's been like, vaguely hinted before is the idea of how like you could kind of through collective isolation like get into like group hallucinations and like group delusions and like
Yeah.
that level of stuff, like not to bring up Lost again, but in Lost, uh there's this whole thing with the others and Jacob and like Jacob wants this and Jacob wants that and like but like and so like there's a part of that it's like talking about how these like supernatural beliefs can lead to like these collective delusions slash like certain kinds of behaviors that they wouldn't do
Yeah.
otherwise but without this kind of
Yeah.
extra idea of this force that's like with them or that they have to please or whatever, you know? And like
Yeah.
it's kind of like how the wilderness is functioning in the show, you know, as like this idea of a thing that like has to be appeased, even though like, you know,
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's culture, right? And, the formation of group culture around accepted beliefs. You tell yourself this story about this power or this attribute of our new setting or whatever, and then that formulates. I mean, I guess it's like a little society. I mean, in it, all these survival kinds of situations have that because you have to rebuild a social order and you build new customs because it's very natural for people to um create customs that fit that new world that they're in.
yeah,
um so there's all of that stuff, and I think like that Lottie stuff, the what is it, we hear the
and
wilderness and
it
the
hears
wilderness hears
us.
us.
Yeah.
That I would put that in like that culture piece that you're talking about. And then this other category is more of like um supernatural phenomena that more than one character observe that seem to be sort of hallucinations or something. So you can, I mean, I guess, I don't know, like being in an extreme situation, form sort of shared hallucinations. Like there is some kind of sound, and somebody, it's like there is a sound, and somebody plants the idea that that was screaming, right? You all heard it. And like in that moment, yeah, I heard it. Like this like collective imagination.
Hmm.
But then I also am wondering, you know, these hallucinations, are they really collective hallucinations? Or is it just that we're seeing them that way? So like in this episode, there's this moment where I guess it's Aquila turns to the one
Hmm.
and the other and says, are we in the same hallucination? Am I in yours or you in mine?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But we don't have a way, like we don't hear them after they supposedly wake up saying like, this is what I
Verifying what they all
dreamt.
saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I have a specific thought about that because of the way they shoot it.
Okay.
So I'll mention that when we get there. That's towards the end.
Yeah.
But so I'm tempted to read it in a certain way. But I agree that yeah, they don't. I wish they would. I wish they would. But yeah, shows often shuttle um uh
Shussle.
shuffle past certain points like that could really kind of put a pin in like
Yeah.
here's what really happened, you know, because I think they do want to play on that line, and
Yeah.
I feel they'll always want to do that, and so I but the key point is I don't expect them to ever go definitively another direction. I do think it's interesting and worth noting though that Coach Ben, like he hears this sound and he hasn't been primed for this, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
weird. It makes it seem like, well, how is he coming up with some, you know, or is it like,
Screaming is not that's not a crazy thing
yeah,
to
that's true. That's true.
independently imagine.
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible, but like that's something that gives me pause where it's
But,
like,
it also makes me think about like, and in this episode, which, and we'll talk about this scene. I want, this is such a crazy scene. We see this coyote with a rabbit, and it reminded me of this thing. I've never heard this firsthand, but I've heard it said that wounded rabbits sound like human humans screaming.
uh,
And we know there are other animals, there are other predators. So that explanation also exists. And I feel like even though the rabbit, we didn't see that in the wilderness, we saw that in New Jersey. Um, it could be it could be like a little bit of a reminder, or at least it functioned as a reminder to me, like, yeah, humans are not the only creatures that scream in these kinds of ways. And
yeah.
coincidence does happen.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, anyhow.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'm firmly in that camp, so I'm inclined to go along with anything like that because I think that's as far as we'll ever get with anything. Um, but I just wanted to close off that point by saying that um, one big difference. I mean, I already talked about how like Lost planted some flags that like they couldn't get around the fact that like there were supernatural things on the there was no room to doubt that really. um and and specifically in the situation with the others and Jacob, it's like, early on it works fine because like the audience is as much in the dark as they are.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end of the show, spoiler alert, y'all, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Eventually you learn that you see Jacob, like there's a Jacob, and not only that, some of the others, not a ton, but some of the others have actually met him directly. And once you get to that point, you're just in a different place. You have a remote leader who doesn't come around much, but who absolutely exists and who absolutely is, in communication with leadership of the group. And so like if the spirit of the wilderness was like that, it would be a completely different situation. If there was really like an entity that for real existed in a verifiable tangible way that they could go visit, who lived in like a statue somewhere or whatever, let's just say, you could just walk in and like, hey, spirit of the wilderness, what's up? But I don't think we're ever going to see something like that.
I don't either, and I'm glad because I don't want to see it. I didn't like it on Lost. And however, I think that this episode, the like the current day timeline ending with Ty going all in around Van's cancer appearing to have paused.
Yeah,
Um
PAWS.
it is like, which, I and 90% of the internet had predicted.
Yeah, they
You know,
kind of
we're
delayed it, but yeah,
Yeah, but we're gonna see. Yeah, I expected it to be like Nat related to Natalie's death,
yeah,
but they imply in this episode that it's related to the death of the waiter.
yeah,
Um, that's interesting. I don't know if it means anything other than just like the way that the season breaks happened, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I kind of
Like,
suspect.
did the wilderness not actually want Natalie to die, or that didn't count because it was an accident? Although the death of the
Yeah,
yeah, whatever.
you could argue it was also an accident, but
Yeah,
yeah. But then there's Javi too, and it's like, to me, it's like the meaning they put on it, not necessarily that it does mean that, but
right.
yeah, I think it's a valid question to ask at this point. Okay, we ready to get into
I'm
scenes?
ready.
All right, so we start off in the past. We're in that cave, and Mari is singing "I'm Too Sexy for This Cave."
This is so stupid. I hate Mari and I hate this scene.
Ben comes in with food. It's bat, which he describes as like a Cornish game hen had a baby with a demon.
I think that's really funny.
Um,
And I was like, of course he's eating bats. Like, bats can live in caves all
yeah,
winter. I don't actually know if that's
maybe that's what Javi was eating, and that's what all those bones were. I feel like that's
those
a
were much bigger than bat bones.
hey, look.
I mean, I know
So
there's some big
there was some
ass bats in
there's
this
some
world,
big
but
there was some babs down there.
babs. Go ahead.
Some bats named Barbara. Anyway,
Oh,
uh,
bats, the big ass bats.
okay. He pushes the food over, and they both eat. Mari seems to pretend to enjoy the bat, and then suggests that she had a big crush on Ben. Ben counters that Mari once called him a pervert failure, and that he had quote raging gonorrhea. Mari tries to play it off and then suggests that they, quote, warm each other up. Ben says he's gay, but even if he wasn't, he'd rather stab himself in the eye.
I love this line.
um, I didn't say it
It's great.
verbatim, but
No,
that
I
was the
know, but
point.
the verbatim line is great. Stick it in your toolkit, ladies.
Mari asks for his leftover bat, And as he goes to hand it over, she grabs his bear spray and sprays him in the face. And then he grabs it and sprays her in the face. And then they both writhe on the ground as we credits.
Yeah.
It's a real farce of a
Yeah, it
kidnapping
is.
here.
It is. They're both pretty inept.
Part of the point in this episode is Ben is like not up for this. Like
Yeah.
he's just like I am not ready to deal with the reality of this situation.
Yeah, he didn't
And
ask for it. He didn't seek it
yeah,
out. It's like, ah, fuck. Well, and we see how compassionate he is.
yeah,
And, even Mari, who's the least likable one.
yeah,
But I mean, it's not about likability. It's about, if he did set the cabin on fire,
yeah.
which we will talk about that
Is
in
an
a
open
moment.
question.
It wasn't because he didn't like them. It's
Yeah.
because, whatever.
He didn't like what they were doing.
Yeah, and like the fear of like what was gonna happen to them. I don't know. He does We don't get an explanation if he does that. But
Yeah.
like it just his conversation with Natalie that preceded that
Yeah.
seems to be more of like you've descended to this moral point
Yeah.
that is inhuman. It's whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, you're better than them. He said something like
Hmm.
that. So yeah. Yeah. Another thing I was going to point out, just because we were talking about it, and so I reviewed the tape. We do clearly see Ben go to the cabin and pick up the matches, and
Okay.
that's when he looks through the window and sees the coronation ceremony. And then later on, we see it catch fire. Of course, we don't see him light on fire, but he was
Yeah.
there and he did pick up the matches. So it just seems, if we're
Yeah.
going with you know, uh
Traditional storytelling, like
courtroom rules or whatever, like
this is
he
how
looks
stories are told.
guilty as hell here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to
I
believe he wasn't. If he wasn't, it's like against what it looks like, which of course they might want.
Yeah, off screen, I had raised the point that storing your matches outside is a really bad idea. And do we know? And I raised the question of whether we know for a fact that he picked up matches, or we just know that he was going looking for
Yeah,
matches. Because if we didn't actually see him get matches, then it could be read as a way of telling us that he didn't have what he needed to set the fire.
yeah,
But that is what Justin is referencing. So
yeah,
that we
yeah, yeah.
do see him getting matches outside. I stand by my claim that it's not a good idea to store your matches outside.
That's fair. You might have said that last year, I don't remember, but
Probably,
or two
probably.
years ago. But anyway, yeah. It's like where the firewood is. There's a big
Yeah,
pile of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
firewood.
yeah.
Matches are there. The firewood should stay. Like maybe you're supposed to believe that like there's a little overhang from the cabin there, and it
Of
like
course
keeps
it
it
is an
dry.
overhang. I just think I don't whatever. Anyway,
I'm not
okay,
saying it's
let's
a
move
good
on. Let's move
idea.
on.
I'm just saying like that's how they
Yeah,
maybe
let's move on.
rationalize it. So yeah, I think the evidence is strong, but I think, now that they by the end of this episode have recaptured Ben, I think we have our best chance of getting any clarity on that we ever will get. So
Yeah.
hopefully, because they have, incentives to find out what's going on with him anyway. So I'm looking forward to next week to see what the fuck he has to say for himself when he's not holding the upper hand like he was with Mari.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the
Yeah. I agree. I think there's gonna have to be a conversation in that context about and whether this is Natalie or Ben or Misty or whoever being like, why would he try to kill us all in our sleep only to then go out of his way to rescue Mari?
hmm
Like she could have died down there without ever without him, like or he anyway.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, go ahead.
No, it's a fair point. That cuts against it. But like I've heard that, it's easier to like drop a bomb and kill
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
thousands than it is to like go up close and like stab someone, directly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's I get that.
so just as a theory of how he might be able to like go through with burning the cabin but not like kill Mari in the pit, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go back to the present. We got Van in a doctor's office. The doctor says they have some blood work results, and Van verifies that they are, quote, not about her foot. She says the cancer has stopped metastasizing, and Van thinks about this as the doctor's voice fades. So obviously, it doesn't matter too much. That was the point. That's all they really wanted us to hear because it just turns up, and
Yeah, yeah.
it just that's the way the rest of
More
the
just
season.
like, yeah.
So we do find out here that Van did go to the doctor for the foot.
Yeah, we were wrong. She went.
She really sounded like she was lying, but apparently not.
No.
So sorry, Van. I don't know. I don't really trust you. So, but maybe I should trust you more because like Ty's
I don't
actually
know about that.
getting like weirder than you are at this
We don't
point.
have to trust either one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's just before I was like, I thought Tyson was the reasonable one and she was the one like going out for like crazy shit, but now it's kind of flipped. Anyway. Okay. So we'll come back to that. Shauna is making breakfast. Callie wants to get expelled. It's weird when you say it like that, but she likes the schedule. And I think the show does too. I was thinking about that. There were comments like, shouldn't you be in school? That's in Twin Peaks too. I feel like there's this thing where when you have these high school characters, it's like it's kind of a pain in the ass to have them in school all the time, like they would be. And so
Mhm.
it's like, in a way, I feel like it's just a contrivance to explain why she's not in school.
Yep.
That whole thing with the guts.
Yep.
Anyway, Shauna asks what Callie and Lottie talked about. Lottie comes in. Speak of the devil. She doesn't want pancakes. Shauna suggests they get lunch, but Lottie says, "Oh no, my schedule's too busy. Sorry, no, I'm booked for the day." Shauna is skeptical, but Lottie leaves with a meaningful look at Callie. Callie gets up and leaves, asking for chocolate chips in the pancakes, and then exits. And then Misty calls Shauna. Misty defends herself for the babysitting, saying that she has some intel and offers to meet Shauna for scones and hangs up. So, yeah, we'll come back to that. I have some specific comments, but they really are along the lines of the later
Yeah.
scenes. So, we'll just
Same.
continue from there. All right, back to the past. Ben pours water in Mari's eyes as they recover. Ben asks what her plan was. Ben understands why she did it and wonders how this could be real, naming some like normal things that he likes, sort of, and reveals that he started subbing because he blew out his ACL and it was a way to pay off his student loans while he figured out what to do next. So a little backstory for Ben here. How did he get to be there as this assistant soccer coach? As he asks if it's real again, he hears a sort of growling. Mari seems to verify that she hears it too. Ben yells at it, not knowing what is happening. And then, after it ends, Mari tells a story about her cousin getting brain cancer and being there when she died. Ben asks why she is saying this, and Mari says she thinks there are two versions of reality, but most of the time the other one, quote, the bad one, is hiding, waiting, but it's all real. She says no one is looking for Ben and says he could let her go and she wouldn't say anything. Then she asks what his plan is. How long is he going to keep her there? And that's the end of the scene.
Yeah. So I thought this was pretty interesting. First of all, I do think that Mari is being honest here. I think that she thinks that she really would not say anything. I think when we see later that it's just that she's kind of a low intellect person and she's bad at lying
She couldn't think of, they
and
caught
she
her.
just, yeah,
Yeah. She actually tried not to say his
she
name.
tried. Yeah.
She left it out of her story specifically, and it
Yeah.
was only when Shauna corners her with a point that she couldn't think of an excuse for it that it's she's like,
Yeah.
okay, fine,
Yeah.
fuck it, I have to tell him now.
Um
So I
so
totally agree.
but the big thing that I wanted to talk about from this scene was this thing she says about there being two versions of reality. which is not what I thought the moral of that story was going to be. I thought it was just like
Me either.
horrible things happen to people, um, even good people, because the cousin's like a 4 year old or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's just this very horrible, the kind of like horrible, sad, thematically relevant story that people are always telling on TV and that people never tell in real life.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think like we're supposed to put a lot of stock in what Mari says and does in general, but what it kind of these lines were sort of like, is that what the show is? Like we've got this the good, the bad one thing that was established in season one with Thaisa.
Yeah.
Um, like, is that what we're watching? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like they're trying to reframe that idea as more general. Like there's this whole structure of reality that's like bifurcated,
yeah,
and like most of the time we see the good one or the normal one, but like the bad one is like always lurking there to like come out. And in the context of like where the episode goes, like it did stand out when I saw this again. I was like, oh, that's weird that she says this and that's the conclusion of that story. Like it's like what? It's weird. So yeah, I do feel like this is deliberately placed here to, at least give us like a way that they might think about what's happening. I mean, maybe this is just Mari's thing or whatever, but you know, it does show like I in general like this little plot like gives more for Mari to do than she's ever had before.
definitely.
Um, and yeah, like this scene shows like there's something there. Like she's got some thoughts about things. She isn't just completely useless as a person
Yeah.
as she seems sometimes.
Mhm.
So yeah, I thought it was an interesting point, and I think she heard the thing that Ben heard, although it's really hard to be sure.
I found that ambiguous.
She nods her head, but then they do all hear it later. At least it's the same
Yeah.
sound we hear.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think they want us to think it's the same, but of course, yeah, like, how can I prove I can't?
Yeah.
And it really might be what you're saying that they're gonna come back and be like, oh, it's an animal, you know, like animal attacking another animal being attacked, like that kind of thing. I could totally see them saying that, and they're just like, in a way, like they're presenting it like I'm thinking about that scene when Doom coming when Javi's hiding and Shauna comes over and says run, and they do this like effect on her voice.
Yeah.
I don't think she really sounded like that, but like
Right.
that's how we heard it. And so like anyway, what I'm trying to say is maybe they're hearing it, they're portraying it as like being processed in this like more extreme way than what the objective reality
Yeah.
is, you know?
Yeah, with the Doom coming Javi thing, I think we're supposed to think that's how it sounded to Javi,
Yeah,
who's also on shrooms like all of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, the cave, has this
right.
hallucinogenic property, so there's that too. And
Hmm.
so anyway, it's a weird moment. Okay, but we will obviously come back to this. All right. So continuing from there, we go back to the present. Lottie is shopping as Callie arrives a bit late because Shauna gave her a pop quiz on thermodynamics. But it was over very quick. She doesn't know thermodynamics. I can only imagine it was as insightful as the teapot dome scandal, where like
Uh-huh.
anyway. All right. Callie suggests a dress, but Lottie says no. Lottie wonders why. Callie is intrigued by her. Callie talks about the knife chasing and still being friends with Shauna. Lottie is not convinced that that's all. Then she asks Callie to describe herself without embarrassment. Callie wonders if this is some kind of cult game, but Lottie says she thinks Callie can answer if she chooses to, unlike most. Then Lottie pulls a $1,500 dress and says she'll, quote, help to, quote, buy it for Callie, who wonders where the dressing room is. But Lottie stuffs it in Callie's bag, saying she can try it on at home. Then Lottie enumerates the security guards in the place and notes that there are no sensors on the exit. Then she walks away saying, "Follow me." So yeah, so this is as you pointed out, a callback to something that Lottie admitted to. I guess it was that scene when they were like going around
Yeah.
admitting bad things that they did,
Yeah.
and it was like the C word thing for Laura Lee. And
Oh,
so
right, Laura,
like I
right,
think it was in that scene.
Laura Lee thought she crashed the plane
Yeah,
by thinking the C word about one of their teachers.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
forgot the context of that. Yeah, I love this idea that the rich kid is from season one, the rich Lottie, shoplifts from this like discount store and then returns it for store credit that she
That
never
she never
uses.
uses. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting detail that I forgot about completely. And like it caught me off guard when she did this. I'm like, what? Really? Like you could I'm
This
sure
is not a dress that I can see Callie ever wearing
me
also.
either. Me either. It feels like it's like the TJ Maxx just to do it more than it is about the thing. But
Or if it's like, shaping you, like this is what I want to see you wearing. Cause like she pointed out a thing that she
yeah,
liked
that's true.
and it's like, nope.
That's
And
true.
then, follow me.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, yeah.
it works as a line, but it's also like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in general, this episode does give us like a little more on Lottie and Callie, like the previous episode, like it kind of seemed like it just fizzled into like, let's just hang out and watch Repo
Yeah,
Divorcees. And it's
yeah.
like, well, that seems pretty harmless,
Uh-huh.
but then in this episode, like she starts coming out with some more things that, none of them is like necessarily bad, but it just seems like questionable of what the intention is behind it. So I'm definitely starting to wonder that at this point. Um, okay, so then we go over to Misty and Shauna having coffee and scones. Shauna asks what happened with Callie. Misty says that she had them play truth or dare to get them to spill their secrets about the wilderness. But Misty says she had it under control and she threatened to tell Aunt Lottie to Shauna if she said anything. Shauna wonders why they needed to come here for this exchange, but Misty says she wanted to hang out. Shauna says she has errands. Misty's phone goes off, and apparently her staff meeting was canceled. Shauna talks about getting a gift basket to make up to the Joels. Then Shauna obviously lies about having a podiatrist appointment, or maybe it's not a lie. I don't know. I can't even tell anymore. Anyway,
People aren't always lying about the doctor.
but Misty is not deterred, saying she'll sit in the waiting room. Okay, so this is the point where I want to bring this up. I just feel like there's something missing here, uh, that is bothering me. Like neither one of them acknowledges the fact that when they arrived at home, she was passed out in the kitchen,
Yeah, she doesn't say anything about, yeah,
and
agreed.
like there was that.
So does she not know that Callie drugged her?
Well, it seems like she doesn't. And like I'm just like I feel like Misty is the kind of person who would be the first to guess that's what happened.
Right.
And so it's like it's just weird that it seems like she thinks she just like got really tired. Like I
Yeah, I
just
agree. She did not say the things that I expected her to say.
it's weird. It's weird. And it's like kind of inaccurate. Like she was definitely trying to keep Lottie back, but what she specifically says here, she did not do.
Yeah.
Like she did not go, Lottie, you better not do nothing, or I'm gonna tell on you. Like that wasn't a thing. So it's just weird. Like I'm just like, why is I
Yeah.
don't know. I just it's I don't it's like is the point just that she's trying to portray herself in a more positive light to like getting good with Shauna, but Shauna doesn't even talk about how she was when they walked in. So it's like they forgot about that incident altogether. I don't know. And like Lottie's first thing was like, "Oh, Kelly, you don't look surprised." So I'm like, like I thought like surely they're all gonna know like what happened, but now it seems like they don't, and I don't know. Anyway, when there's inconsistency in like the way they show things and then the way they talk about it later, it always bothers me. So that's why I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but the point about Misty wanting to hang out with Shauna, that's right in line. So, and Shauna trying to get away as quickly as possible. That's all fine. I have no problem with that. That's like, you know, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
Yeah. What was that text really just a cancellation of a staff meeting? Is there some reason other than just a desperate desire to build a friendship with her, feel that she has a
Oh, you
friendship
think she
with
might
her?
be hiding something?
Like, is there something going on? I mean, I don't know what else it would be, but
Well, I'll tell you what is insinuated later.
you mean that she cut the brakes?
Well, there's that, but also that she's the one who left the phone. She's
Yeah, yeah.
it's like Shauna basically accuses her of being that person, you know. Of course, she doesn't know about the envelope yet, but like I think the viewer is invited to consider her as a suspect. I know we haven't gotten to that scene yet, but I just want to say she was at their house that whole time. Like there's no way she could have put that phone in the bathroom. Like that's
Right, right. She
it's
can.
just not physically possible.
Yeah, yeah.
She is 100% accounted for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and who could it be other than Walter? I mean, but she's alienated from Walter. Like, she just,
Yeah.
yeah, she doesn't have a like a partner in crime,
Yeah. Yeah.
or an
Yeah.
accomplice, I guess.
Totally, totally. Right, right. You're saying she could have sent somebody.
Yeah, except that there's no one she could have sent. So
Yeah.
I
Theoretically.
like I'm raising the question of whether the text is something other than a staff meeting, whether it has to do with the breaks or something. But it's like I don't actually believe that it's plausible that she could have. I mean, we're certainly invited to think that she cut the brakes because, the Natalie,
It's consistent with her earlier thing. Yeah.
yeah, but it is more extreme.
It's very much more extreme. And yeah,
And also, why did the break? I mean, the brakes weren't
yeah,
it. They stopped working.
failing
They
before
weren't not
that.
working from the
Yeah.
start. So,
She got to the coffee and scones place. So
right.
like clearly they were working at that point.
And they left there together and
Yeah.
drove successfully for a while
Yeah.
with the brakes.
So
So,
it would have to be some reveal. Okay, well, here you go. You ready for the reveal?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do think actually, the more I think about it, the one natural assumption to make is that it was actually a mysterious individual who cut the brakes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
uh,
definitely. I mean,
what you could speculate is that mysterious individual actually is collaborating with Misty, like off screen. I don't actually believe that for the record, but like that's on the table if you want.
well, yeah, let's put that on the table. And then in that case, I think it could definitely be um she would be susceptible to
Yeah,
making friends with or collaborating with what's her name?
Melissa.
Melissa.
If it's really Melissa.
If it's
But
really
yeah,
Melissa.
whoever it is, but yeah. Yeah.
Um
Exactly. Like maybe that is the way they're trying to go. Like, that like she's playing on that thing of Misty feeling left out and
yeah.
feeling pushed to the sidelines by them and all that. And like so she was like, okay, like get Shauna here, I'll cut the brakes, whatever. I don't know what the plan is because it's Misty's just in the car, so it's like, it does seem like it was putting her at risk as much as Shauna. So like I don't.
But if it's like, well, we don't want Shauna to get hurt, so you need to be there to help.
Yeah.
Um but then why?
Yeah, and she doesn't really help much. She kind of just sits there while Shauna like steers it into a place that.
Yeah.
So she didn't really do anything to help.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know. Like I don't really believe it, but it's just like technically possible,
Yeah.
you know. Um and yeah, and like strangely I didn't think about it before because I was just like, oh, I think the brakes just failed randomly. But I think it makes more sense that someone did it. And like that's really at so far like the only candidate that makes sense is this mysterious figure who's definitely stalking Sean.
Yeah, I mean the other version of this is, they go she goes to the mechanics in the next episode, they pop the hood and the symbol is like written on
Yeah, yeah,
the,
yeah, 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 yeah. If that happens, it'll be pretty clear, but we'll see. All right. You ready to
Yeah,
continue?
yeah.
Okay, so we go to Ty reading an article about the waiter who died. Van comes in and Ty closes her laptop. They both say they have something to tell. Ty gets Van to go first, and she says her cancer might be in remission. Ty is happy and they hug it out in celebration. Ty tells Van about the waiter and what happened when she went back to the restaurant. And she reveals that she thinks, quote, it could be happening again. The waiter was a sacrifice along with Natalie. She does mention Natalie here, incidentally.
Okay.
Um, and then she lights a candle, asking Van to, quote, give in to the possibility. Then she chants, we hear the wilderness and it hears us. So I will say, when I saw this scene, it made me think that my interpretation of the candle scene from the last episode where she throws the matchbook and the candle was some kind of ritual
Yeah.
thing, because she uses a candle here specifically as well,
Yeah.
and she's specifically talking about, it's like I feel like she was already on that track um at that point, and so anyway, that's what I'm inclined to say after
Yeah.
this. But this is such a crazy turn for this to take. And oh yeah, the other thing I was gonna say, because like they do bring up Natalie like kind of weakly, but technically they do say her name in this scene. It does feel like they wanted uh they wanted that idea of like there's a sacrifice and it takes the cancer away, but like they didn't want to just say it was Nat, like they wanted to bring in something a little more urgent from this season, not
Yeah.
something that like we remember from 2 years ago
Yeah.
as the point. So it's like it feels like they're just kind of rebooting that idea to bring it back to the same point that goes back to what you were speculating from season two. Lottie looking at Van, you'll see.
Yeah.
Gave it what it wanted. It's pleased. Like it definitely feels like that was the way they wanted to pivot out of it, but they wanted to kind of reestablish it and like reiterate the
Yeah, that
idea.
makes sense. Yeah.
Basically, that's my theory of what happened there. All right, we'll come back to that. Uh, Back to the past. Mari sits in the cave as Ben enters with a knife. He
Yeah,
tells her to.
we have all seen this scene
I
so
know,
many
I
times.
know.
It's like, come on.
He tells her to stand up. She does. And then he cuts her ribs and tells her to go.
Obviously.
And she kicks his crutch out and knocks him over and runs.
Obviously.
So yeah, I know, right? Did you believe for a second?
No,
I didn't
no.
think for a second he was gonna stab her. I was like, you're gonna cut
Yeah.
her loose, right? That's clearly the point. Like he's had this like internal thought of like, what am I doing? What is the point of all this? What is my plan? Like, do I really have what it takes to like do anything other than just let her go? And like the
Right.
answer is no,
Of
I
course not.
don't.
Yeah.
That's just what I have to do. Like I brought her here because I couldn't, I didn't know how to
Yeah.
deal with it, and I thought maybe I'd think of something better, but I didn't.
And
This is all I
certainly you
got.
don't want her as a roommate.
Yeah, totally, totally. It's yeah, she's obnoxious, and I don't really blame Mari for doing this, even though it's kind of mean because like she was being held captive. So she gets a pass from me. Okay. So we'll come back to that as well. All right, back to the present. Shauna and Misty are driving as Misty celebrates having girl time. Shauna wants her to close the window, but Misty says they're Thelma and Louise, and they always had the window open. Don't you know that?
They were driving around in a convertible.
I know, I know. I'm sorry. I just think it's funny. Because they're driving around a
In a
minivan.
minivan.
It's like if we put the
In a
windows open, we're
minivan.
just like
Yeah.
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally she does it anyway. Misty gives some directions, but suddenly the brakes aren't working. They pull into a park using the hill to slow the van down before finally pulling the emergency brake. It took way too long to do
Yeah.
that.
Kids, that's what it's there for.
Yeah,
I
please.
don't know what it looks like in your hybrid.
but you got one, and like find out where it is, because if your brakes fail, that's what you need to fucking use. All right, that's literally why it exists. All right. It's like it makes the scene more exciting that she's like swerving around these crazy places, but I'm just the whole time it's like, what are you doing, Shauna? Come on. I know you're smarter than this. Anyway, Shauna thinks Misty sabotaged the brakes and left the phone in the bathroom. Misty denies both. And also it's like, but like the reason it's not Misty is right in front of you, Shauna. You know where she was that whole time.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
literally ask like Callie, did Misty leave at any point? Like, anyway. Um Shauna brings up stuff from that day, the hidden camera in Natalie's room, Jessica Roberts, the syringe, like basically just a bunch of shit that Misty did.
Yeah.
Um and she thinks Misty was warped when she was little. Misty denies it. Shauna tells her to get out of the van. Misty says she deserves better and calls her Shauna Shipman before exiting the van and walking away. This was the only moment where I was like, I feel like maybe they are trying to like rope us in since that was the name on the envelope. And of course Misty knows that that's what she was called in high school, so it's not like that crazy that she would think of her that way, because I think you do that usually if you know someone, even if they change their name, like it just stays with you, you're used to it.
Yeah.
But like
I think
anyway,
it's yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that they chose to have her say it that way when she doesn't ever say that. It just felt like deliberate, like they're trying to make us wonder if she's connected to this
Yeah, I
stalker
don't
thing.
think she is
I
because
don't
I think
either.
it's a bad answer. And because I prefer the idea that she says Shauna Shipman for the kind of the force of calling somebody by their first and last name, and that in to as a callback to their childhood, their their adolescence, I guess, that like formed them into
Yeah.
who they are now.
Yeah.
Like that she is the kid that she was,
Yeah.
they both are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and I completely agree. All right, you ready to continue?
Yeah.
Because we kind of already talked about this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so back to the past. Melissa walks up to Shauna wanting to talk. Shauna is standoffish, but calls Melissa back as she seems to walk away. Melissa sits down on the log next to Shauna. Shauna asks if she will turn out to be, quote, fucking boring. Then they hear Misty yelling that Mario's returned, and we go. All right, sorry. Yeah, I just want to say this is it right here. This is our whole follow-up on that situation is virtually nothing. So
Yeah.
it just feels like they want to establish, like, yeah, this is a thing. We're not going to actually do anything with it right now, but it exists, and we
Yeah.
will give you more later. That's what I'm taking away from this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's very much nothing to this scene. It's just kind of an interlude before we get to the next point.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the camp. Shauna asks Mari where she was. She throws back an insult. Then we hear the initial story that she fell in a hole and dislocated her knee. Shauna asks how she got out with the injured knee. Mari, caught finally after hesitation, admits that Coach Ben found her and tells the story of what really happened. Shauna wants to know where the cave is to go capture him since he tried to, quote, burn them alive. Natalie tries to say it's crazy, but Shauna wonders about that, then verifies that Mari can find the cave. Then she says anyone can come along if they want. So she's gonna do a hunting party, if you will.
Yes.
If we may continue the lost references. So a couple of comments here. I do think this is beginning the story of how they use that pit later.
Yeah.
This is how they hear about it first. And I feel like they're gonna follow up on this eventually. And this will become a part of their thing. So it's planting the flag for that. And also, like you said, and I just want to agree, like I do think I'm surprised. I'm surprised that Mari was loyal enough to even try to lie, to even try to cover it up, you
Yeah.
know? She absolutely did not have to do that. There's nothing stopping her from saying the full truth immediately. So I just want to give her some points for that because she did make an effort. It's just, yeah, she got caught. It's like she shouldn't have talked about that hole, but she had to explain the knee, you know?
Yeah, I just think she could have said, like, I fell in a hole. Oh, well, one of the sides of the hole was graduated enough that I
Yeah.
was able to climb
Crawl
out
out or
with
something.
difficulty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she just didn't think it through.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Um, uh, yeah. All right. Are you ready to continue?
Yeah.
All right. So, Lottie tells Aquila that she should stay behind to talk to it. All of this is a distraction. I love it when characters say that.
All of this is a
It's
distraction.
all of this is a distraction. It's like, oh really? The plot that we're supposed to care about is a distraction? Thanks, Lottie. Anyway, Aquila says she's good and walks away as Lottie says, after all this, you still don't believe? She looks at Travis, who walks away immediately. This is Travis's only scene.
Yeah. Travis is like,
He's like off to the
I guess
side and just see him
I guess
like
my handoff wasn't as successful as I'd hoped.
exit, stage right even. So it's yeah, like,
Mhm.
oh, you looking at me? Ooh, gotta go. I don't know. I got some, I don't know, rabbits to hunt or berries to collect, or
There
I
you go.
guess come on, I gotta return some videotapes. So yeah, anyway, this is a follow-up from when Travis puts Lottie towards Aquila. And it's funny because it shows like, Travis, you could have done this too. What's she gonna do? Force you? Like,
Yeah.
like it's like, no, how about no, Lottie? How about
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
That's all Aquila says. And like that's it. That's the end of it.
Yep. It's great. I love that. Aquila's like, no,
Yeah, you know
not
what?
good.
Hard pass. And it's interesting because she did in season 2 when they're having this discussion leading up to the hunting competition with
Uh-huh.
Natalie. She like Aquila does like say, well, Lottie knew. I forget exactly which thing it was that she said. She said one of the things that she did, either to do with the birds or it was the bear or it was whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
like any one of those things that so it seemed to me like actually Aquila was on board with, or at least leaning in the direction of Lottie's like weirdness. So I thought like either they're inconsistent or we're supposed to believe that, I don't know, like the
Yeah.
experience
This
with
is
Nugget or
Isn't there a scene with Aquila and Thaisa where
actually, that's a good point. In the scene with Thaisa, she does basically imply that it's just that she's thinking of it as just a placebo,
yeah,
which suggests that
like a
it
routine
works. It
visit.
doesn't mean it's doing anything non-psychological,
Yeah.
you know. So actually, that's a good point. I forgot about that scene. Thank you for bringing it up. Good job. All right. I totally forgot about that. All right. So, continuing from there. So
Let's
go back to the present. Lottie and Callie are singing Make Your Own Kind of Music as they make a thank you meal for Shauna and Jeff. Callie lets Shauna try something and she enjoys it, noticing the heart necklace that Callie is now wearing. Lottie gave
Ugh.
it to her. Shauna wonders how she has it, freaking out. Lottie thinks it feels right and asks Shauna if she feels it too. But no, she doesn't. Then Shauna tells Lottie to leave right now. Lottie says it never meant what you thought it meant. Shauna rips the necklace off of Callie and tells Lottie to get the fuck out. Lottie removes her apron and leaves. Callie leaves the kitchen as well, and Shauna throws some dishes like Locke.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lost
Throwing dishes
references,
is so dramatic.
Make Your Own Kind of Music will never not be a Lost song for me. That season 2 opening is so, dare I say, iconic that I think no one can ever outdo that particular usage of
Mhm.
it. And anyway, it's just hard for me to believe they're not aware of this. Because
Uh,
it's just there's too many points here where it's like, oh my god, okay.
yeah.
Um,
There's some songs that are just so good for that, and TV shows using music really well. I mean, this TV show uses music really well.
yeah,
This is just sort of a like not one of the more notable examples, but
yeah,
Lost has some good ones, including that one and Downtown.
yeah, yeah,
And then of course we mentioned Leftovers earlier.
yeah.
That like Leftovers morning ritual
Alarm
song, the
song,
alarm clock,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't even remember what that was called, but yeah, that was a big
Um,
one for sure.
so
At
what
Homeward Bound, you know.
yeah, yeah. So what did Shauna think the necklace meant? You know, Lottie says the necklace never meant what you thought it meant. What
Okay.
did she think it meant?
Yep.
And what does Lottie think it means that she thinks that it makes sense for Callie to be wearing it?
Uh, yeah, indeed. Okay. Yes. So I'm gonna slightly reorder
It's sort of
things.
like it's the heart. She's the queen of hearts. Like, is it, you know, the queen of heart? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a heart
Yes.
necklace. Anyway,
Yes.
go ahead.
I do. Okay. Well, all right. So the first question is like, how do you have it, right? We don't know what the fate of the necklace is in the wilderness.
Yeah,
So, I mean, the most recent we see, I believe, of the necklace is the pit girl scene from the pilot,
yeah,
right? And when they do the draw for the first time in season two, when Natalie draws the Queen of Hearts, Sean puts the necklace on her before she's supposed to like submit to
yeah,
being sacrificed, right? That's the idea. So I thought it was clear that uh the heart necklace meant you are the chosen sacrifice. And those two, it just seems
yeah,
like that's what it
yeah.
adds up
Sure,
to. Okay.
sure.
So as I say that out loud, my first question is, if Lottie had this necklace, why wasn't it brought up in season two when they literally did the fucking sacrifice? But okay, whatever. I'm gonna say that that's just a retcon. They just didn't think about her having necklace still. Because like whatever. But I feel like it's a valid point because like, yeah, it really should have been brought up there. Um, Someone should have said something. But yeah, so we got to learn like what happened with it. That's one thing. But then yeah, I this whole like it never meant what you thought it meant.
Yeah,
Like,
that line is weird. It's like it never meant what you thought it meant. It's like if you're just putting it on people. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, well, like I just okay. One of my most what do I want to call it? One of my biggest pet peeve lines on this show is said by one Lottie Matthews at the end of season two when Shauna gets up and says, there's no it, right? It was just us. And then Lottie says, is there a difference? That bothers me to this day.
Yeah,
And no one called her on it.
yeah,
No one confronted her on. I feel like she gets away with saying shit like this, and no one confronts her and gets like, "What the fuck do you mean? Like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? This makes no sense." I feel like she's gonna get away with this too, and like never be confronted on it. But like the other thing it reminds me of a little bit is that whole weird thing with Travis and Jackie, and like you took something that doesn't belong to you and it's got nothing to do with like that was never explained either. Like she's this weird, like it's like they give her these lines that are like vague and ambiguous and like they're often just kind of left floating there, because like no one ever like pins her down. It's like, can you please explain yourself? So anyway, I'm not expecting for her to say what it means, but I guess we're invited to believe, at the very least, that she doesn't believe it has to mean you're the chosen sacrifice, and therefore it doesn't have to mean that I'm saying we should kill Callie, which I think is the implication that Shauna is making here,
yeah.
and that's why she's freaking out so much. So that's how I'm taking it. What exactly does she want it to mean? I mean, yeah, maybe yeah, going more in the direction of Antler Queen, Queen of Hearts, some kind of
Yeah.
spiritual leader. You're so powerful. I don't know,
Yeah. I
something
mean, it
along
seems
those
like it's more
lines.
along those
Yeah,
lines, because of the other ways that she's regarded Callie since they met.
yeah,
But
totally.
we'll see.
We will see. We will see. I think let me just see here. This is our final scene with that part of the story. So we will come back to them next week, presumably,
Mhm.
for continuing adventures. And Lottie's not going to be a house guest anymore. It's so sad. Where
So
will she
sad.
go? Is she
Mm.
going to show up at Misty's?
Oh
I
God.
feel like she wants a
She
roommate.
certainly could. She
Um,
would be
and maybe she
welcomed.
can tell Misty, hey, Callie like totally like poisoned your fucking put some
Drugged,
drugged
yes.
your drink, and that's why you passed out, right? You know that, right? Why didn't you guess
Yeah,
that? I guessed
we're
that.
definitely gonna get that scene.
All right. I know. I hope for things in vain. All right. So in the next scene, Ty and Van are watching Pee Wee's Playhouse on VHS. Van talks about her sad childhood with her mom, and Ty makes a weird joke about Van being a sad little redhead being sad all the time.
Yeah.
Just really weird.
It's weird.
She's real weird in this scene. It's like, is this the bad one, or are you just
Yeah,
like
there
getting
is sort of
strange?
a bad one vibe that I get off of her throughout this episode,
Yeah,
but like not hardcore bad one, but like
yeah. In
it's at a
that more
spectrum.
in that spectrum, yeah, that we talked about in the last podcast, that like, yeah, it's like she's like trending in that direction. I felt that way in the earlier scene too,
Yeah.
when she's talking about the waiter and the way they shoot the light on her face, and
Yeah.
she makes these eyes that felt like bad one eyes to me,
Yeah,
even
she's like
though,
lit up with it.
yeah,
It's not like she doesn't seem like guilty or like I have to tell you this thing. It's pretty bad. I didn't tell you right away because I it's just so upsetting. It's not like that at all. It's like, "Oh my God, guess what? Your cancer? It's because of this guy."
yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like open yourself to the possibility. And the chanting, and we know like from context that the bad one is like much more buying into that
Yeah.
like spiritual wilderness
Yeah,
stuff
yeah. Going to
with the
this to the tree
symbol, and
symbols.
yeah, exactly. So I think that makes sense, but they're not explicit about it. I mean, there is no scene where, at least so far, 3 episodes in, there is no scene where we have like, I think, an unmistakable bad one appearance yet. So anyway,
Okay, you want to hear something crazy? Do you want to hear something crazy?
okay.
Okay. The first time we see the symbol, I think, is on the floor when Lottie has gone up to the attic when they first got to the cabin, and Lottie had been telling Thaisa, I get a bad feeling about this place. Something bad happened here. She goes up to the attic. Ty goes up and finds her up there looking at the corpse, and Ty sees the symbol. I don't think we see Lottie acknowledge the symbol. So, did Ty imagine that symbol on the floor and start carving it everywhere?
Okay. Well, my correction is probably
There's
going
a
to poke some
correction.
holes in that story,
Okay.
because I believe that might be the first time that they see the symbol,
It's not the first
but
time
I
we
don't
see
think
it.
it's the first time we do,
We
because
see
I'm
it on a
pretty sure
tree.
they have a shot where they show it on a tree before
Okay.
anyone sees it.
Okay.
So, and before they even find the cabin.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I would have to review the
I was
tapes
just
to
trying
be
to think of
sure.
a way that Thaisa could have actually been the one who carved all those.
No, I like your theory, because like it helps, but I do feel like we're supposed to believe Cabin Guy did the carvings, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's it would help in a way if that were true. So I like where you're going with that. And it does make me want to review when the first time we saw the symbol was, because I'm actually not 100% sure. Um I think it's in the pilot, but it might be in the second episode. But I remember they're trekking through, and there's like the camera just goes over and
Yeah.
shows it
I
all
do
the
remember that
trees.
shot. I just didn't remember when it happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
So
that's before the cabin. Anyway, sorry.
no, 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 no. I was just say, all right. So we're watching TV.
Oh, shall I finish the scene?
Yeah.
Okay, so sad little redhead being sad all the time. All right, anyway, then she says she's glad the cancer is in remission, not in so many words. As they make out and celebrate, a commercial comes on the TV for the quote, land of make believe, a kind of theme park, if you kind of look at what you're seeing in that commercial. And then it transitions to another commercial for Ozzy's homemade ice cream parlor. The flavors will make your eyes pop. And we see the eyeless guy. He's in the commercial with, and it's his eyes popping out like with a cartoon effect. Ty verifies that Van can see it as well. And she says that it's the guy from her vision. Ty speculates how this image could have been implanted in her mind, seeing it when she was younger, and vaguely references the grandmother thing, which was when we thought it originated. That's what you call a retcon, kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, she looks the place up and it's permanently closed, but Ty wants to go to it because, quote, it has to mean something. Van seems uncertain.
Yeah. Well, as should be the viewer. Um, yeah. What do you think of
So this is
this?
kind of wild. I actually forgot to do something that I meant to check up on. I'll have to get back to you next week about this. But I think uh and if I'm wrong, you can just fast forward past this because it's worthless. But I think that when we see the Land of Make Believe commercial, which watching it again felt like they're at least winking at the audience
Yeah.
here. Um, there's like a glitch in the VHS that happens, and we've seen that kind of glitch on the show before. Actually, they used it for Ben's fantasies.
Yep.
And that's when this commercial for this ice cream place comes. So it's like, I don't know exactly what they're trying to say with that, but it just feels notable.
Yeah.
And then if it's even true, like I said, I'll verify it. And then yeah, basically like what they're offering us here is a kind of retcon answer of like where this image of the eyeless guy came from. Like it's this
Mhm.
weird local ice cream parlor that like made this creepy commercial about like the ice cream will make your eyes pop out and that's why he's got no eyes no more.
Yeah.
Like what?
So there's a few options in my mind. One is it's a horrible retcon
Yeah.
because who the fuck would put that terrifying character in an ice cream
Yeah.
ad?
I think he's even
Two,
in the logo for the
mm,
place. Like it's hard to see because it's in the distance, but I'm pretty sure it's the eyeless guy in the logo. Anyway, sorry, go
boy.
ahead.
Um, Two, it's some kind of shared hallucination,
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I brought up the land
which,
of make believe and the
yeah,
glitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a theme.
Yeah. Though the
Um,
place seems to exist. I mean, they go to a place and the sign matches what they saw in the commercial for what it's worth.
or three, and I have a really I have a really crazy crackpot theory that I don't really believe, but what if?
Oh my, go for it.
So they're watching this on VHS. Van says that she hasn't actually watched it. She just has all these VHS recordings.
Right, right.
And we have at play in the season a mystery person depositing a presumably threatening
Mm,
videotape.
right, right. I
So
like it.
how how about it could it be possible that this videotape has been doctored by somebody who's threatening them? I don't, like I said, I don't know that I believe in this. I think it's just crazy. But the fact that that it's that we got this other videotape at play, I don't know.
Well, okay, a few points of skepticism. So,
By all means, I don't even, yeah.
like, because I like the idea,
Because somebody
but
still would need to know, like, what the eyeless guy looks like in Ty's mind.
well, yeah. So, like I said, I like the idea. I want to make it work, but here's some of my hangups. So, one thing is like, did they shoot the commercial themselves. Like the commercial must exist, right? Like maybe the commercial wasn't on the tape originally, but like you're not saying that this person actually shot a commercial.
No, I'm saying like they tipped it in somehow. Like
Yeah,
they edited it in.
yeah, okay. But then in that case, like the commercial's still real, so anyway, okay, so that's the first point. And then
Like in my theory, like there was this ice cream place, there was a commercial for
yeah.
it, but it didn't include the eyeless guy.
Okay, so they're just adding that
They added the
in
eyeless guy.
as a hallucination. Or you're
As
saying
a no, they actually add in
like Melissa or whatever cut it in.
yeah,
Like
in
shot a
order
scene of the
to
eyeless guy and
yeah,
cut it in.
correct. I'm not look, yes, I know.
That's
It's crazy.
wild. I like
In
that
order
though.
perhaps to make them go to this location.
Oh man, was it Misty in the eyeless guy mask? I'm just wondering who the accomplice is, because like, to shoot it, like there probably needs to be
Yeah.
at least two of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a minor
All right,
point.
what's your other
Okay.
skepticism?
My other skepticism is just that, so far at least, so for example, going back to the postcards, we had, well, three of them got postcards. The only three we knew about at the time, but Shauna didn't, right? And that was explained later because it was Jeff. Simple. Simple.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted to say that at least so far, it seems to me like this person is totally focused on Shauna. There's been no indication that this person is stalking or having anything to do with any of the other Yellowjackets. So that's my other point of skepticism. It looks like it's a fixation on Shauna in particular, so it would be new information if that person is actually getting involved with Van or Thaisa or both or whatever,
Hmm.
because that hasn't been
Yeah.
suggested so far.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other point I wanted to make about Misty is it is notable that that scene in the bar after Natalie's funeral, um, uh, with the stalker
Hmm.
shot is Misty's not there. I mean, they specifically talk about it. And they also talk about how she could be
Right.
watching them, LOL. So anyway, like if you want to put all that together, like it does seem like there's a few, at the very least, I do feel like they're putting the possibility of Misty as a red herring suspect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I do think that Walter being off, I don't think we're done with Walter.
oh, I don't either. Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, he's eligible. I mean, he's a Misty adjacent character for sure. So,
I just hope that whatever they tell us doesn't suck.
hey, me too. Me too. But I just got to throw out what I got so far.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm all on board.
Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say about this was, this is it's fine on the show because like on the show it makes sense,
Hmm.
but something that bothers me a lot in real life is when people are talking about stuff that appears on screen for one reason or another and they go, it has to mean something.
Oh,
I hate that expression because I just think it's like, no, it really
yeah.
doesn't. It really, that's wrong. You're just
Yeah.
wrong. Like, you could spend the rest of your life reading about continuity errors. Like,
Oh,
it's not to mention just like crew visible or you know some the camera catches like a Starbucks cup in the middle of the
yeah.
Westeros or whatever, like
Yeah.
it's like stuff like that. Like it doesn't, stuff appears on screen accidentally all the time. So anyway, sorry, it's just when
Yeah.
she said it has to mean something, my first thought is no, it
No, it
doesn't.
doesn't. Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but she's on
Yeah.
she's on that train. Anyway,
She's definitely on that train.
shall we continue?
Yep.
Okay, the next scene we have Misty arriving back at home to Caligula. She smashes a photo of the four of them at the reunion. I think that's what that
Yeah.
photo is from.
Yeah.
And then burns the photo inside. Misty mad.
That's what Caligula said.
Why are you so mad, Misty? All right,
You're just
anyway.
a mad girly little man, curly haired house.
Curly girl being mad. All right. Anyway, it's like so weird. I don't know what to say about that. All right. So we'll continue from there. Um, I feel like it would have made more sense. Well, anyway, whatever. I won't bother. Here we go. Back to the past. They walk through the woods. Mari says she's not lost. Shauna tells her to take her time. She's got this. Mari walks. They follow. Interesting little moment here
It
where
is, yeah. The
Shauna's like let go of the hostility towards Mari in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
situation.
which was, you know, critical to the inciting incident that landed Murray in the
Indeed.
pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Natalie's approach was right. She is a good leader.
Wait, what do you in what
Well, no, there's just this thing in the earlier episode where Thaisa tells Natalie that she needs to do something about the conflicts between Shauna and Mari,
mhm.
and Natalie's like, "Nah, they'll work it out or whatever."
Oh, that's your point. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. I
things are
forgot about
going
that.
exactly according to
Look at
plan.
that. Look at that. That's why she's the antler queen and the rest of us just follow, right? Come on.
I'm not convinced.
All right, we'll see. Back to the present. Van and Ty arrive at Ozzy's. Ty tries the door, but it's locked. She looks inside. Van wants to leave. Ty wants to break in, and she does with a crowbar. Van says,
Where did she bring that crow? Did she take a crowbar with her everywhere? The bad one had a crowbar.
I don't know
I'm
what
just
else
like,
to
when she
believe.
has a crowbar, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's gonna make it easier.
Unless we're supposed to believe it was sitting there, but like, yeah, otherwise, I think she must have brought it. Um,
It's wild. I don't usually carry around a crowbar with me, but maybe I
you
should.
got a point, but maybe you should.
Now I'm
Also, a
gonna.
good
Will you get
point.
me a crowbar for
Yep,
is Christmas in December this year?
I think it is.
Mm,
Same time as usual.
I think
Yeah, I don't know. Memorial
I might
Day?
yeah, Memorial Day. Oh, maybe there's like a Memorial Day sale on crowbars. Anyhow, please continue.
Right. Van says it's a crime and wonders what she's looking for. They both go inside. There is an abandoned bicycle in there. Through the back window, they hear animal sounds. It's a coyote holding a rabbit in its mouth. Ty asks what it wants, and Van says, "We know what it wants."
Wait, does Ty say what does it want, or does Ty look at the coyote and say, "What do you want?"
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't either.
I can look it up if you actually want to know for sure.
No. I just
It won't take that long.
it'll change my attitude about the scene.
All right.
But so Van says we know what it wants.
Yeah, I'll just finish and then
Okay.
I'll look this up. Yeah, Van says, "We know what it wants. It wants more." That's what she
Mm,
says to finish that off. Yeah, so like
it
the
wants more.
the implication I think is like more sacrifices. The idea is like we sacrificed this waiter and it made your cancer go away, and like now it wants more.
Yeah, so it's like we came here to this place because we saw this thing and I interpreted that it meant something, that it was pointing us to here. We get here, it's in this state. What does it, capital I, want? Like meaning the wilderness or the spirit of the wilderness or whatever. What does the spirit of the wilderness want? Is, presumably as symbolized by this crazy coyote. I mean, there are definitely coyotes in New Jersey, I say with confidence. Somewhat of an expert in New Jersey wildlife, having never been there before. Um, but I mean, there's coyotes all over the place. They live on the edges of human civilizations. And what is more of an edge of human civilization than New Jersey? Um,
Sick
no,
burn.
that's not what I mean. New Jersey is a beautiful place. It's full of, they call it the Garden State. Right?
Yeah,
Okay. Um,
yeah. There's a movie. That's the only reason I know.
mm,
Yeah, she does say, "What do you want?" For what it's worth.
and she's talking to the
She's talking to the
coyote,
coyote.
but
Yeah,
presumably she's talking to the coyote as some sort of a proxy for the
the wilderness.
wilderness.
Yeah, the it's. Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Um,
that's how Van takes it, and she doesn't contradict
I mean,
it.
in the yeah, yeah. So so in this sense, that's like the coyote, the spirit of the wilderness, and this like fundamental human impulse of just of like more, this like rapacity.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. it goes back. I feel like it goes back to the whole like spill blood, il veut du sang,
Uh-huh.
like all that, like that like that's how it's appeased, and you have to keep sacrificing to it to appease it. And even Lottie like putting, cutting herself and spilling blood on the
Yeah.
altar,
I feel like it's sort of I'm trying to thread this through though with that comment that you that thing that you alluded to earlier that you dislike so much of like there's no it was us the
Mhm.
whole time, there isn't a difference
Mhm.
or whatever, that like the human animals, like non-human animal, like the coyote, we are tuned into the wilderness, like the wilderness is in all beings at some
Mhm.
on some level, you know
Yeah.
this capacity for cruelty.
Yeah.
Not all animals though. I'm looking at my dog lovingly. I don't really mean, no, I mean certainly wolves, yeah, but you know it's hard to imagine, a caterpillar or protozoa
Yeah.
having a capacity for cruelty.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow,
I agree. I agree. I mean, that's the thing. That goes back to like there was some line like that. Oh, I think it was from Natalie's death dream. It was something like I think she was actually talking about death, but she was like, it's not something, it's just hungry. I don't know, some weird
mhm.
like we were. I don't know, It's like some like I guess trying to reframe the idea that it's about like cruelty, it's that it's about survival, it's about just basic necessity, and there's no maliciousness
Yeah, I mean the
involved.
coyote with the rabbit, that's predation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's no cruelty to predation.
Yeah.
It's not like dolphins.
Right. Oh.
Google it.
All right. Well, I feel like this is set up for something kind of wild to happen because it's like once they're on this train, it's like, well, what the fuck are you gonna do now? Like, go
Yeah,
kill
they're gonna go
somebody?
find
Like,
I was gonna say a hobo, but it's not 1920, so we don't say hobo anymore. Um, yeah, yeah,
you mean an unhoused person?
yeah. Go find some unhoused person. I mean, they're out or like, ugh, I don't know. I don't want. I'm scared for what they're gonna do.
Yeah, like it seems very. It seems like it's opening the door to like a pretty disturbing plot. Like, and so I'm just like, wow,
Yeah,
where are you gonna
I
take
just want
this?
to point out, and maybe they're just building up to it, but it's been in the past at this point, it's been uh months that they haven't killed anybody, that they've
Yeah,
only been, raising animals to eat.
I have a point I want to make about that, but go ahead.
And like the wilderness isn't punishing them. That's all I was going to say. So it's like does the wilderness really need you to be doing this?
Hey, valid point. Just to turn in a slightly different direction, I was thinking about how, they show that they've been raising these animals, right? And I'm like, why didn't why didn't they like, kill the animals and like, cure it or whatever, like make jerky or whatever, like it just seems like that would be the thing
Yeah, that's you mean for the coming
to
winter?
get through the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
think for the coming winter, 100%, that's what yeah, they need to be doing that. I mean, and they've got to find some big game. So finding, okay, I understand they don't have a massive amount of salt to preserve it that way. Maybe I don't know, maybe they don't have what they need to preserve it. I I don't know.
yeah,
But they should at least try. We
yeah,
we need to see them trying to make jerky.
I feel like it should be brought up, because yeah, I feel like at least part of the point has to be like why, why isn't this enough? to get them through the winter? Why are they
Yeah,
bad?
like there was that book that they found in the ashes that was
Oh
like,
boy.
it
How
was
to
like
cure meat with only
primitive
dirt and
architecture. Yeah,
sticks.
exactly. Well, there's yeah, I mean, okay, so let's say yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm joking, but they had that meaningful shot of like primitive architecture book, like, and that explains how they're able to build these beautiful pods that you could like find one on Airbnb and rent it for like $800 a night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, we need an answer to why they are not able to save enough for winter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it just makes me wonder, like, what is the ultimate outcome of this camp and the animals they have there, and like whatever preparation. Then they could also like gather stuff, while stuff is growing, so like there's a lot of opportunities to do the things that I think generally speaking humans have done like historically to make it through winters. There were large periods of human history where you know you're just out there, you might have other people, but they didn't have like advanced technology or anything, to they just had to like figure out a way to get through with what they had, and
Yeah.
so it should be theoretically possible.
Yeah, it's why I'm currently taking a pemmican making class. Just because you just never know.
It seems useful. All right, so you ready to
I'm
continue?
ready.
All right, so we're going to go back to the past and we're going to stay there. This is
Yeah.
where we are for the rest of the episode. I'm not going to Um, I'm not going to, yeah, whatever. Here we go. They arrive at the cave entrance. Misty isn't sure they should go in. Natalie says they don't have to do this, but Akila says they do. They hear the growl screeching thing at this point.
Is Aquila well, okay, go ahead. Is she really tuned into the wilderness and that's why she's saying this?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no explanation given, so I can't really say.
Yeah.
It's a weird. I didn't know how to take it, but I just wrote what she said. Yes, we do. That was it. Natalie says she's going first, leaving two guards behind, the red shirts, of course. One of whom could be the pit girl. She's the only other one besides Mari, I think, at this point, who could be. Anyway, not even named yet, so I don't know why they would do that. But anyway, here we go. Um, most of them enter the cave following Natalie. We see them walk through the caves. There are some rocks blocking one way, and they speculate on if it collapsed or if it was set up like that. And it was like a double bluff. Don't really understand what Misty's talking about with double bluff,
Sister,
but
you haven't seen Princess
it has something to do with Princess Bride, which I have seen, but I don't specifically remember what she's referring to. So,
Bride?
and I didn't look it up. So
Yeah.
sorry, y'all. If you wanted me to Wikipedia for you this week, you're going to be disappointed. So anyway, Natalie says they should split up. Shauna, Van, and Aquila on the open path, and the rest of them moving the rocks and trying to go that way. Shauna and Nat say be safe to each other as they split up. So that's another thing we get out of this is Shauna and Natalie sort of bearing the hatchet or whatever, like they have this very genuine moment where it feels like they're not, you know like Shonda's not trying to undermine Natalie's leadership, and Natalie's very genuinely like saying like, good luck.
Mhm.
It's like it's similar to the thing with Mari and Shauna earlier, where it's like they've got a goal, they're doing a thing, and
Yeah.
they're on a team, and they're not gonna
Yeah.
bring the petty bullshit
It's
in.
sort of how you need that third roommate so that the two of you can bond over how much you hate them.
There you go. That's a thing. Okay. Yeah, we get another of the growl screeching here in this little bit. So that's something from this season. I don't know what they're going with that, but I just want to note it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we follow Shauna, Van, and Aquila through a tight passage. Van is skeptical that this is the right way, but Shauna wants to keep going. Shauna's candle goes out, but Van's is still on. Or can you say candles on? Anyway,
Lit.
whatever.
Lit.
It's lit. Thank you.
It's lit.
It's lit, man. All right. They keep going, We get like a candle POV, which is really weird. This shot was weird to me, but it happens. They enter what may be the main cave area where Ben was. I'm not sure. I feel like it is, but I'm not sure.
I also couldn't
It
tell.
may or may not be that place. Um, maybe the symbol is on the wall. I'm also not sure about that either. So you remember in season 2, at a certain point when Ben goes down there, there's a shot of the wall. He looks at some shit on the wall, and like I had no idea what he was even supposed to be seeing.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know. And they do it again here. This is also part of making me think it was that place. But anyway, they look at this thing on the wall, and they focus on it for a good
Yeah. I remember that shot.
shot length, and I'm like, is it the symbol? Like I sort of see a circle, I sort of see like what might be like the symbol,
I need to roll the tapes on that
but I can't
'cause
really tell. Yeah,
pull out my phone as if I know how to
yeah,
know how to Google for that.
yeah. I can find it for you later, but yeah, I don't know how to Google for it.
So I guess in The Princess Bride, there's a game, a Battle of Wits. It's an exciting game of bluff and double bluff, and there's an actual board game based on this. This was not like a super enriching Google journey that I just went on.
Okay.
But I guess that the idea is that you bluff and double bluff to eliminate your opponents and survive.
Like I'm tempted to say that a double bluff is just not bluffing, but
Yeah, but like sort of pretending that you're bluffing or like make somebody think that you're bluffing. I don't know.
but like if somebody thinks that you're oh, somebody thinks you're bluffing, but actually
You're being
you're
sincere.
being
Yeah.
sincere. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's yeah. I still somehow am bothered by
Yeah,
that.
I guess it's sort of like, oh, maybe we're supposed to think that he caved this in
He wants us to
because
think.
he wants us to think that he's on the other side of this, but he's really over there.
Well, I was thinking the other way. He wants us to think that
That's what makes it a double
he
bluff.
said it as a decoy, but he's actually that way behind the rocks, right? Like that was
That's
the way I was
that's a
taking it.
triple bluff.
That's a triple bluff. All
No,
right.
I don't know.
All right.
No, I guess you're right. That's the double bluff.
That's what I was thinking. Anyway, okay. So yeah. Right. So we're with Vanishon and Vanishon. Donovan and Aquila. Or Vanishon, if you will.
Vanish on.
That sounds like a thing. All right. So maybe the symbol's on the wall, not sure. Van's candle, or vandal, if you will, starts flickering wildly, or I don't know how to describe it.
It
It
looks like it's like growing and then going back to the normal size.
yeah.
And so when we hear this thing about gas, like,
Ah,
okay,
gas.
gas.
Gas. Good point. Good point. I didn't even think about that. Okay. She asks the others if they're seeing this. Aquila confirms, but Shauna vanishes, and then Aquila vanishes, and then the vandal goes out.
I'm already like just never in this. Like I people are always doing stuff in movies and TV that it's just like far more courageous than I would ever be. And yeah, I'm not going in and like because if you are in a cave and you don't have a light, you are in total darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just finding now a bunch of images of yellow jacket nests in caves.
And all they got is candles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, where'd they get those candles, by the way?
Yeah, they took a lot of stuff out
Thank
of that
God for
cabin.
candle
They got
smugglers.
so many things out of that cabin before it burned
No,
down.
it goes back to your thing about, what who was it? Like Van going like, no,
Van's
you
like, I'll be
go.
right behind you. And then
Yeah,
she goes and she scoops
yeah.
everything with potential plot relevance
Hmm.
into her
We're
knapsack.
gonna need all
She's like
this
Father
for season
Christmas
3.
with a giant knapsack full of candles, books about ancient architecture, pemmican recipes.
Yep. Yep. Sounds right to me.
Unfortunately, the pemmican recipe was damaged in with smoke, and they just had to go back to eating each other.
Oh, such tragedy, you know? Okay. So at this point, we transition into a series of fantasy sequences.
Yeah.
I think what I'm gonna
I mean, I
do.
think we're already in a fantasy sequence when we see the people vanishing.
Well, I agree, but it's like I feel like there's a point,
So
right?
I felt like there was a warbling
Yeah, the
earlier
candle
on.
POV is when that happens.
Okay.
Yeah, they show a little. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it seemed to me like some of it was real. So like, and the transition wasn't. Maybe it was the point you're saying. I mean, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. Um, but yeah, I agree. We were already in there, but now we're like
Yeah.
definitively in there.
Yeah. So you're gonna just keep going.
So my plan was to kind of keep going until we get to like this end thing where we go back to the real world.
Yeah.
Briefly for the end of the episode.
Sounds good.
Okay. So it's gonna be a bunch of stuff. We see Van in the cave. She sees a door in the wall. It goes into maybe some sort of hybrid of the cabin in her childhood home. I didn't really understand what this place was supposed to be. I'm
I think
just
it looked like the
guessing.
cabin.
I thought it looked like the cabin, but also like the home they showed her in early. I don't know. There's a couch in there, and it's like that's weird. Like, why is there a couch? I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and they do reference her upbringing earlier in
yeah,
this episode.
yeah. And I remember she
So
like wakes her mom up on the couch, and so I just thought,
yeah,
oh, maybe that's like what's happening
I
here.
like it.
They
I
don't
like
say it, but it makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, she sits by the fire. Aquila is in the woods. She eats some blackberries with relish. Then she hears a sheep bleat. She goes over and sees some animals and pets them. And then a talking llama says, you
That's
all,
just not a line that was on anybody's bingo card.
you all saw it, right? This happened. Yeah, so this is like that misty dream sequence from last season with like the
Oh yeah.
Caligula. Just it feels in that
Mhm.
vein at least.
With the John Cameron Mitchell.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like it's vaguely along those lines. So a talking llama says they bite, everything with teeth bites, everything will defend itself. Then he
Mm.
says, they're calling you. And we hear the screeching sound. And we see the trees like in a distorted shot, kind of like what they showed when Travis was tripping out
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like it's sort of referencing that. Okay. So that's a weird moment. Just to pause for a second on that. Again, I'm hesitant to read anything too deep into something that I think is the product of their minds. But I will also say that I felt like last season we had well, we have Natalie's death dream. That was fine. I think that pretty much made sense. And then we had like Lottie's thing that I think was like a potential death dream that was averted, you know. But it really felt to me like with those, like the stuff we were seeing, it was pretty clear why we were seeing it and what place it was coming from, the character themselves who were experiencing the vision, but like with some of this stuff, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to think about this. This is weird. Like, why are they seeing this? Like, I don't really understand. Now, Akila's seeing animals. That makes sense. But then, like, this weird stuff with the llama, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going along with, the more general point of, and Lottie coming up to her, wanting her to like get in touch with it and stuff. Like, maybe somehow that's lingering there. And like, that's why she's like sort of incorporated that idea into this talking llama vision. I don't know, but it's weird.
So
And he
I
says they're calling you, and it's like that's weird. It's like it's saying that I think it's saying that this sound is a they, and it's like specifically like calling to them. That's what it seems like it's insinuating, because I think he means they're calling all of you, not like they're calling you Aquila. Although I guess maybe it could mean they're calling you Aquila. I'm not sure. We'll see if there's any indication of how she takes it later.
so
But I had to pause there because
yeah.
that was a weird little bit there. Even though I
Yeah.
meant to go through all this.
Well, I want to say one thing, and I don't know if it's significant, but llamas are used as guard animals to protect various other types of livestock.
Ah, okay.
And I don't know if that matters,
Okay.
but throwing that
Yeah.
out.
No, it's worth saying. It's worth saying. That whole thing about everything with teeth bites, everything will defend itself, it really feels like it's coming from a similar place as that scene with the fake therapist from season two where suddenly she's like a hunt with no violence never fed anyone or whatever, just it feels like there's this like
Yeah, but it also, sorry, go ahead.
law of survival, law of nature, war of all against all, like sort of idea embedded in their idea of like what the spirit of the wilderness is.
Yeah, and it raises, I think, the question, unless it's just supposed to be moody or whatever, it raises a question of, so who's defending themselves when these things happen?
Mm-hmm.
And is it defending themselves against something that the Yellowjackets themselves are doing?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I found that also eyebrow raising.
Yeah, it's not clear what the point of this
And it
is.
might not actually amount to anything.
Yeah, it really might not. It really might not. It might just be a thing that floats right by.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of floating, Shauna is seen floating in a version of the lake, I think.
Yeah.
A boy calls to mommy from the shore, waving. She tries to swim to him but can't do it. Then we go back to Van in the cabin, which
The shot of her swimming and swimming and swimming, but staying in place is so good.
yeah. That's like a real dream thing for sure. Like that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing they have where it's like, I mean, it's never been swimming for me, but sometimes it's like running or whatever. Like I gotta run, but I just can't do it. I don't know. It's a
Yeah, it
weird.
seems like a classic dream interpretation kind of thing. And so then, like, applying that same classic dream interpretation idea to Akila's thing, like, she is, you know, she wants to protect and take care of these animals who she's raising. And she is
Mhm,
perhaps continually concerned that some predator in the wilderness will come and take them.
mhm. Yeah.
And that will also mean, that they won't have anything to eat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. Um, until they tell us otherwise. The Okay, so then we go back to the cabin. The fire like spits out a thing onto the rug that then like catches fire.
an
So
ember.
ember, thank you. The thing was the best I could come up with.
It is also a thing.
Um and she is buckled to the chair like in an airplane as some hands restrain her from getting up, but she unclicks the seatbelt and gets up and goes to the door, but it's locked. Okay. Then we go back to the
And
long.
that feels like it connects directly back to the crash itself
Yeah, definitely.
when, yeah, we all remember.
That's a very clear. It feels like it's sort of a hybrid of the crash and the cabin burning.
Yeah.
You know, the llama. We go back to the llama. So the llama tells Aquila that it can be easy or hard, but either way, it will get what it wants. And then Aquila sinks into the ground. So yeah, so again, it's sort of reiterating that idea. It wants something. We're supposed to appease it. That's a very, very common recurring idea whenever they talk about the wilderness. So it makes sense that she would pull this in. Okay, so she sinks. This is where we start to transition out of their separate adventures into their together adventures, if they can be called adventures. At the same time, or I shouldn't say at the same time, but they cut straight to Shauna is pulled underwater. And then third thing is like someone opens a door. I was so confused by this shot. I couldn't make any sense of this shot. From context, this should be Van, right? Because they show what happens to Aquila
Hmm.
at the end of this. There's a door there that's blocked, that's locked, that Van can't get out of.
Hmm.
Right? We see Shauna pulled underwater, and then there's this shot of like someone opening a door. They don't clearly show who it is, and there's also two other people there. And like I couldn't tell who any of them were. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this shot? I was totally confused.
It's not the three of them?
It makes sense that it's the three of them, but let's just say I could not clearly tell that it was the three of them. It didn't particularly
Yeah.
look like the three of them.
Yeah, I don't remember the shot.
Yeah, it's weird.
Um,
I can show it to you. Actually, while I'm here, I know this has like got nothing to do with that, but I just remembered something I meant to bring up, which is a thing from season two that we talked about before, and I just wanted to say it before I forget. Yeah, there was a little controversy coming from me in previous episodes about whether Misty stabbed Natalie with
oh,
phenobarbital or fentanyl. Like, did they get that wrong? Blah blah blah. I reviewed the tapes. I reviewed the transcripts. Indeed, the chocolate thing was fentanyl. They were pretty clear about that. Um, and so you were right. Boom, boom, boom. That's a Misty thing for sure. Now, in the finale, there it is never clarified what it is, and there was actually debate online. I found, was it phenobarbital? Was it fentanyl? People were arguing about it because she used fentanyl earlier. On the other hand, Misty is going through Lottie's stuff. We see the phenobarbital there. When Walter comes in, Walter explicitly uses phenobarbital on Kevin, but he tells him that's what he used. And phenobarbital doesn't have a thing that can be used for an overdose, which
yeah,
fentanyl does. And Misty surely would know that and would be the first person to have that available and also go get it when she accidentally stabs Natalie. So it actually makes more sense that it's phenobarbital. And so anyway, I feel like it should have been that, but it apparently wasn't because they told us it wasn't. So anyway, that's my comments about that particular thing. I just wanted to bring that in.
noted.
Just because this is it just reminds me of that because this is there was a shot in that finale episode where they show Lottie going into her stuff and looking at it and like being pleased with what she sees and
Yeah,
like they never explain what that is. Anyway, that's what this shot reminds me of because it's just like in here and I'm like, I don't know what this is.
yeah,
I'm confused.
yep,
Anyway,
yeah.
I'll show it to you later.
Please, yeah, I do
But
want
I
to
think it
see.
makes the most sense that it's the three of them. It's
Hmm.
just that they don't shoot it in a way where it's obvious that that's who it is. So I'm just saying it. All right. Then
Then,
they're in a classroom.
hmm
Akila asks if she is in their dream or vice versa.
hmm
Lottie is the teacher and says that there is only one dream. On the chalkboard, it says, of all the ways to lose a person, death is the kindest.
yes.
The eyeless guy walks by with the beverage cart from an airplane.
Mhm.
So that's in there. And how did they come up with that shit? Well, maybe they saw the commercial. They all lived in the same place as Thaisa did, so they could have seen it as well as she did. So
Yes.
actually, the commercial thing helps
Yes.
to explain how they could
Yes.
bring the eyeless guy into this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hmm.
Um, and then Jackie's in there too. Jackie snaps a bracelet and then looks over at Aquila asking if she wants to try. She does so, and then Van wants to try. When Van snaps it on, she feels pain. Jackie says that happens. Lottie says you shouldn't play with dangerous things. Van has a cut on her arm now. She throws the bracelet on the ground, and Jackie picks it up, saying, "Don't be a baby." The edge of the screen goes out of focus on Shauna. I don't know how else to describe it. They do this a few times. Even the shot with the trees was like this. It's like the edge of the screen is blurry and like the center is in focus. I don't know how to
Hmm.
explain what that is. Okay. Jackie suddenly puts the bracelet on her neck, Shauna's neck, that is. Blood starts gushing out. Lottie tells Aquila to help her. She tries, but says she can't. Lottie says you have to, or she'll die. We'll all die. Shauna seems to be on the verge of losing consciousness when. All right. So, we'll get to that, but I just want to see like any comments about this weird bit here. Like this is weird to me. There's school stuff in here, so like
Yeah.
that's fine. It's interesting that they throw Lottie in here even though she's still alive, but she's not actually with them. Whereas like Jackie being here sort of makes more sense. You know,
Yeah.
because like and I'll tell you the other thought I had was that this is actually like a potential another example of like a potential death dream in progress that's interrupted. You know,
That's true.
I feel like that's one way to see this because it is you can
The
see it as
poison
similar.
gas
Yeah,
is about to take them
yeah,
under. Yeah.
exactly.
I like that theory.
And that
That it's a death dream.
the of all the ways to lose a person, death is the kindest. You know, just it feels like
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like it fits in.
It seems interesting to me that they are okay. So if we believe that this is a shared hallucination brought about by extended exposure to the gas, whether they are on the verge of death or not, um, you know, they're they're all seeing the same thing. They're seeing Jackie presumably because they ate her. Um,
Yeah.
and because they can't get Javi. Um, and
Right. He's
then
way too old now.
yeah. And then they're presumably seeing Lottie as the teacher because on some level, even if they have expressed skepticism about Lottie, like that I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying
She's
to say, but
definitely a spiritual leader.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
cause Natalie isn't doing that. She's not getting up, going like,
right.
let's like get in touch with the wilderness or
Right,
whatever.
but and having even with Akila's skepticism from even earlier in this episode and
Yeah.
Shauna's persistent skepticism
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Lottie,
yeah.
that they're seeing her up there. Um,
And where Van stands, who knows? She wavers
she does.
in this episode alone.
And the slap bracelets are interesting because, they're very much a child of the 90s. So like thinking about the
Yeah.
llama, it's like people in the 90s were not talking about llamas. Like the internet makes us aware of llamas. Like Instagram 2025, we're all about
Well,
llamas.
yeah. So since you bring that up, this is a small comment, and I might not get this quite right because I didn't double check it, but I wanted to bring it up and then I was not going to, but now I will. Cool story. That I think it's the scene where Melissa comes up to Shauna. I think she says something like stalker much or stalking much or something along those lines. And I was like, did they say
Did
that in the
people say that?
90s?
Yeah.
That feels like a very modern phrase to me. Like, I'm like, did y'all
Mhm.
forget like that they're in the 90s? Anyway, I feel like the llama might
I'm not
be.
sure about that. I wonder.
Yeah, did they say
Did
that in the
people say that?
90s? Because I feel like I don't remember like blah 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 much until 10 years ago at the earliest. I don't know.
Well, we should go watch Clueless. And if it shows up in Clueless, that'll be our
If
answer.
it's in Clueless, then obviously I'm wrong.
If they said it, it will be in
Fair
Clueless.
enough. Fair enough.
So, yeah, so slap bracelets, anybody who was around at that time remembers like
Yeah,
they really do hurt.
they hurt for sure.
And so I like this idea of something that is innocuous, but it did hurt you, and it's associated with like girlhood in the 90s in America. Um, and then like it escalates. I don't know. I'm not saying anything profound.
That is
I
what
like
happens in the
that.
scene.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah. I like that, but I don't know what else to,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Take away from it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't really think there's a lot to glean from this sequence.
I sort of agree. I think that's why I have trouble with it because like I said, Lottie's thing, like I felt like the point of it was pretty clear. Um and Jackie's thing, like it was clear, Natalie's thing, it was clear. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It
Yeah.
all seemed to tie together with like where they were coming from and so on. Um, and like I think my hesitation with this is how long they spend on
They
this.
do.
Like I feel like this is the longest fantasy sequence we've had in the show so far. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this goes on longer than any of those earlier versions. There's also the one where, Lottie gets like baptized,
Yeah.
the underground cavern one. That
Yeah.
was shorter for sure. We have three separate characters going on their own quest, and then they come together and have this, and it's a long scene with a lot of stuff going on. And so I'm just like, if they're just gonna like toss this out, I'm like, well, why? I don't know. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
confused,
Yeah.
it makes me want to find a point. It makes me want to believe that it means something. It has to mean something.
Yikes. Uh,
No, I don't know for sure, but that's my only hesitation about that. Otherwise, I do generally agree that, like, I do think at the very least, a lot of stuff that's going on here is just incidental detail that they
yeah.
thought was cool. But the larger point here, I don't know. I feel like there's something going on, or at least I want there to be something going on, but I don't know what, so I can't really say
Yeah.
any more than that at this time.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this matters, but I just want to say I'm sure everybody else also Googled it. The of all the ways to lose a person, death is the kindest is a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote.
Ah, okay, okay. Well, that makes sense. I think.
Okay.
Trust me, it
Trust
does.
me. I
Um,
do.
no, he was all about like
Oh, it's you mean it sounds like something Ralph Waldo Emerson would say?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty much.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I also just feel like the spirit of Ralph Waldo Emerson fits in with the context they're in.
Yes. Yeah.
That's, I
Sure.
guess, the point I was trying to make. All right, shall we continue?
Yes.
All right. Well, in our final scene, Shauna wakes up in the cave. Aquila is there as well, and so is Ben, who enters dragging Van. He has his nose and mouth covered and says there's some kind of poison gas in there. He holds a candle up, which must be Van's, uh, to hear a rifle click, and it's Natalie with Ty holding a gun on him, saying, "Don't move." And then she says, "Sorry, coach, you're coming with us." He reacts to this as we end credits. All right,
Yeah.
so that's the end. All right, now the thing I was gonna say about this is this specific transition is from Shauna with the bracelet around her neck, and she's about to lose consciousness, and then we cut to Shauna waking up. To me, this suggests that if we're gonna assign it to one person, it should be Shauna's dream. That part, at least.
Yeah.
If they're not actually sharing, if they don't verify that they're sharing it, the cuts imply that at the very least
Yeah.
Shauna was experiencing
Yeah.
it.
Which would explain um why
Jackie was in
Jackie,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
for
you.
sure, which totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I hope they have a long conversation about the eyeless guy too. I can't wait to hear them discuss. Oh man,
Yeah.
remember? And then Thais is gonna be like, oh yeah, we talked about in the wilderness. I forgot for some reason. And Van's like, yeah, we all forgot a lot of things that happened out there. I
But
just
you
want to
described it in such detail and you drew it and you remember Melissa took the drawing with her?
right, so she could recreate it later and edit it into one of my videotapes. Yeah, no, I like that theory. I like that theory a whole lot. Um, but yeah, so like just for some obvious points to make here, we've already talked about it, but like throwing in this gas thing is definitely like a classic. I'm gonna call it a classic Yellowjackets thing at this point. Anytime some crazy shit happens, someone's following close behind with like some boring explanation to like make it like more plausible or at least like
Yeah.
not require
I
anything.
mean, I would prefer that to having to wait a season and have them give me some boring shit to explain
Yeah.
something that I've been obsessing over, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I agree. I agree. If we're gonna be let down, at least let us down quick.
Yeah, quick and painless.
Totally, totally. Okay, and then Yeah, the other thing I was gonna say is I am like I think it's just another point in Coach Ben's favor that he specifically like helped Van here, get in the room and like
Yeah.
told them what was wrong and stuff.
Yeah.
So just just to show like,
Exactly.
they're very vulnerable here and he didn't do anything untoward at all.
Yeah.
So that's a point. And I also think it's going to be an interesting transition. I expected this. I mean, I expected at some point they would raid the caves. I talked about
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
back at the end of season two.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like this was inevitable. This is not the way I expected it to play out,
No.
but nonetheless, they got here, and I feel like it's like the thing I am like most interested in for next week is what the fuck he's gonna say now that they can confront him directly. Because when he's with Mari, it's like, I don't know, is he just like putting on airs or is, trying to like make a certain impression? Is he even lying to himself? Or is it really true? And there's some other explanation that we'll actually learn. Did Melissa light it on fire?
Oh my
I
god.
just want to go ahead and
That's
suspect
not
Melissa of
of
everything at this
everything.
point.
Yeah, I
Did we see
mean,
Melissa when the thing got set on fire? I don't know if we did. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
I mean, if it wasn't him, it was, I don't know, the bad one, or it
Oh, the
was
bad
the
one's a valid one.
wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's another person running around. I mean, I know on last week's podcast, I raised the question of who dug the pit and put those supplies in it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it possibly someone different from the cabin
Cabin
guy?
guy. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think there's some other person we're gonna meet who's like living
Been
in
out there this whole
proximity.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I don't either. I feel like that's something they should have introduced by now if they were going
all
to.
kinds of things that I think that the show is just not going to do because I don't think it's that kind of show.
Yeah.
And so one of those things is I don't think we're going to get some kind of explanation that this area is vacant because of like a poison gas situation.
Oh, some kind of like
It's like
chemical
fenced
weapons
off.
testing or some shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's not that kind of show. I
Yeah,
mean, there are all kinds of
definitely
things
not.
that it's just like, as you think like what might account for these things that are happening, and it's like, yeah, it's not the X-Files, it's not Wayward Pines,
Yeah.
it's not, so anyhow.
Yeah, or even Lost.
And it's not like a witch show, I don't think this is like a witchcraft thing.
Right. Yeah. 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 I feel like we're supposed to think the gas is just a natural phenomenon, like
Yeah,
some
yeah,
shit from the earth or some
yeah,
reaction with some shit in the cave or whatever producing a gas, like that was
yeah.
my
Yeah,
feeling, not that it was like yeah, like done by
I agree.
artificial
It's
means.
just, yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say about it is I feel like it could also be maybe a better window into what Javi was experiencing down there and like this
Yeah.
other person that he supposedly saw and so on. And they also had that brief scene that was not referenced at all in this episode. I mean, Mari doesn't bring it up or anything, of Ben like going off to the side in the cave and seeming to like have a conversation with someone, right? They didn't
Yeah.
like talk about that at all. So anyway, I feel like if there is like a hallucinogenic gas and like maybe the place they were in was like farther away from us, they're just getting like a small effect from it that wasn't lethal, but it was still like affecting their minds. I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like the
Yeah.
door's open for that
I
idea.
agree. I agree. And I think it goes back to the thing that I said at the beginning of like, now they have something that they have established that they could come back to say, like, oh, those visions that you guys were having, it was
Yeah.
because the cabin was built over a fissure with
Yeah.
this gas leak.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why the guy killed himself. It's why he went crazy and flipped all
Right.
those symbols and then killed
They
himself.
could totally say that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not an amazing, yeah. I don't know how many seasons the show's going to go on for, but if it's going to go on much longer, it's not great that they have given us that
They
answer.
claim to have a 5 season plan. But I feel like based on the way the wilderness has progressed, that if they're really going to do 5 seasons, then I feel like at least by the fifth season, they should be out of the wilderness. And we get like flashbacks to the return,
Yeah,
the
hopefully
early
they don't go
days.
back to the wilderness.
Well, as far as like the ending of the show for the adults, I think they absolutely could go back to the wilderness. That is not out of the question.
That's yeah, yeah.
If anything, that's, if you wanted to make, and that was
The
something.
only reason that I don't want that to happen is because it would be just such a lost thing.
Well, wow, that's okay. Well, that's what I was gonna say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, like, yeah, like, that was something that bothered me about, because I remember people were talking when Lost ended, like, there was some comments, like people saying, "Oh yeah, before the finale aired, like, yeah, we knew what the ending was going to be, like, way before, like, we had." And it's like, yeah, it's the most obvious thing that you could say, like, we open on an eye opening and we close on an eye closing. Like, yeah, wow, you came up with that early on, good for you, what a genius. Anyway, this isn't quite on that level, but I do feel like it is like sort of an obvious direction that they could go in, that they return to the wilderness.
Yeah.
you know and I feel like the Lottie's camp was like a hint in that direction. you
So I
know
guess I guess there's two versions. Well, there's probably I mean there's more than two versions, but two versions coming to mind for that are they go back to the wilderness as like a coda on the show altogether because they're like we cannot our experiences in the wilderness have made it so that we cannot live
yeah,
in the real world.
yeah,
We have to go back because that's
yeah.
the only place where we were whole. And
And let
that's
them
one
literally
version.
say we have to go back so I can say it's another Lost reference. Anyway, go ahead.
Of course. So that's one version, and it's just like there's nothing. There's no more story. They just go back.
Yeah,
The other version, which is what I had in mind, was that like a whole season happens.
they go
They're
back.
like they go back because they realize like there's something that they need to investigate or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. But that they go back and we actually watch them live there, explore there,
Hmm.
whatever, perhaps with the ability to leave should
Yeah,
they want.
yeah.
Um
Willingly this time.
Willingly.
Yeah, which also, yeah, makes it like Lost, like they had to decide to go back, not just, they were
Yeah.
trapped there.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. They're not going to be taking a girls trip to Sedona and accidentally crash.
right. Which, yeah, that would be ridiculous. Let's hope it's not that.
Indeed. So
All right, well,
anyhow, it was a crazy
them's the
episode.
breaks.
If anybody's watching Severance, I think like there's just something in the air in terms of like curveballs for television shows to throw us.
Indeed, indeed.
And but regardless whether you are or not, hopefully you enjoyed this yeah.
I do recommend it if you're into Yellowjackets and you're up for a bit more of a
If
sci-fi
you have
mystery.
taste in television, you should check it out.
It's totally worth watching. It's a very different show, but it has some things in common.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. Check out Severance Jockeys. That's not a
That
thing.
no,
Don't
no more
actually,
no,
don't
no.
search for that. It's not happening.
Maybe there's
Um
one, but it's not us.
it's not us. And you could listen, but I'm not
But I'd
recommending it.
rather you save your energy for next week's
Next
episode.
week, yes, we'll be
Yellow
back next week
Jackets.
with episode 4, whatever that's called. And until then, a
Buzz,
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 buzz.
buzz.